Welcome, everyone. We are so grateful to have Winona LaDuke here with us today, joining us for our Heart and Mind Festival, Traditional Medicine.
I'm happy to be here.
Winona is described as one of the most tireless, charismatic leaders and activists in relation to the earth and the environment today, in Native traditional people's rights. And she is a tireless water protector, earth protector, and we are so grateful for her to be here with us. We know that she's very busy and is all over the map. I was blessed to attend one of her talks in New York City, and the amount of knowledge and amazing, inspirational way that she engages is incredible. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Happy to be here. So Anishinaabe Agriculture, hello my relatives. Thanks for visiting with me. I'm here on the banks of the Mississippi River in northern Minnesota, where we have we are collecting to protect our water from the Enbridge Corporation, which proposes to put a pipeline in, and we've been fighting it for 7 years, and they're about to try to unroll, and we're going to stand here. So I'm coming to you from kind of the heart of Anishinaabe territory, the heart of our wild rice. And I'm, happy to share, our world, because our world is related to your world, because we all breathe the same air and drink the same water. And the corporation I'm fighting is the same corporation that puts, carbon into the air, and we don't need it anymore. In the time of the pandemic, there's a lot of ways to look at this. We have a lot of stories in our Anishinaabe culture, as do a lot of people in their long ago cultures. And long ago stories, and we have stories about little animals that do amazing things and transform the world. And so the bat, long time ago, the sun got caught. The sun was stuck in a tree, and the bat that's how the bat came to be, because the bat had to go and get the sun out. And at that point, the bat wasn't quite a bat, but as a reward got wings, and that's why they're dark, and that's why they're blinded. They could only see at night, is because the bat released the sun and gave us back this balance that we have. And I tell you that, and I only tell those stories, it's winter, Zugipu and Aguaching, it's winter outside here, and there's snow on the ground. Those are called Atazukan stories. And the reason I told you that story is that this virus, they say, came from a bat. And that was the origin in China. And, there's some different theories, but in the world, what we know is that, the United Nations has even pointed it out, but Indigenous people probably said it for a couple hundred years, is you don't mess with Mother Nature, you're not going to win if you pick a fight with Mother Nature. And that's, pretty much been our guidance and counsel, but been disregarded, we'll go with that. And so now we're faced with the United Nations saying, if you keep reducing biodiversity, things are going to be caused by that. And indeed, that is what has happened, is that, where the wild things are needs to be that way. It needs to stay that way. And the wild things need to be protected, and the biodiversity needs to be protected. So in this time, maybe one day I'll refer to this as the time of the bat, when the bat came back and stopped us. And I think about that because, I think about epic things that happen in this moment in time, and we have in fact been transformed. We have been transformed in so many ways. And Arundhati Roy, the Indian writer, refers to pandemic as portal. So she says, pandemic as portal. And she talks about this moment in time, and she said, in the history of the world, pandemics change societies. This one is no different. The difference is the speed and the amount of change. And, she talked about different plagues, how they have transformed societies and how quickly they spread. Well, this spread quickly because of globalization. And the push towards globalization, where you can get a shrimp from Scotland and devein it in China and ship it to a Walmart near you, you got all kind of stuff going on. And the consequences are in part what we see. And she asked the question of, if the pandemic is a portal, do we want to walk through that portal and carry our avarice, our hatred, our dirty skies, our data banks, our bad ideas, or do we want to walk through clean? And I want to walk through clean. I see social movements surging. I've spent most of my life, fighting stupid ideas and a lot of racism. And in the course of the last few months, you've seen a massive change in our societies, 10% reduction in fossil fuel production. The skies are clear. The ozone hole is healing up. And also you saw a social movement that took down statues. Never in my life did I think that I would see so many statues fall. All those Columbus statues, all those statues of Confederate soldiers, all those statues of conquistadors, they went down. So what you see is a movement that is occurring in the middle of a pandemic and the end of the fossil fuel era. And so I'd say take a breath. Breathe in. Be the people we're supposed to be in this moment. In my community, when the pandemic started, I live on the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota. And I live in my community, and our community quarantined. We stayed away from people, and the kids didn't go to school, and so they all moved in with me. And so I live with 6 14-year-olds. Sometimes I live with more 14-year-olds. But those young people, they quarantined because their schools were out, and they preferred to stay on the farm. They preferred to stay in our Anishinaabe traditions and our Anishinaabe ways. So that's what we did. When the pandemic started, we went into the woods. The first medicine of the Anishinaabe people, the first medicine is maple sap, is maple sugar. It's comes from a tree, and it's a medicine that comes from a tree, and it is given to our people. And so, we went in and we went to our sugar bush, and we drank our sap, and we cooked outside, and we reaffirmed the Ojibwe New Year of gratitude that the Creator had given us this great gift, and that she had come again. And then, since then, we have stayed pretty much close to our farm. We have grown more food than we ever grew in our lives. We grew food for our community. We picked a lot of our medicines, and we returned to a lot of our traditional practices, knowing full well that that this society has not created solutions, has created more problems. And I'm pleased to be here, but I kind of kept my head low. My community, people see me more than they saw me for a while. And I refer to the previous time as I say, I used to fly. And they look at me with this like puzzled look, like you used to fly. It's kind of like a mythological thing that I used to fly. But now we stay close to the ground and care for our medicines and our people.
Thank you so much, Winona. My name is Nicole Adriana Casanova, and I'm really grateful to have you here. As you said earlier, we all share the same air, we all share the same water, and this is why we wanted to really invite you to share your voice with Traditional Medicine and the Heart and Mind Festival as an extension of all of the work that you have been doing and dedicated your life to. And you did mention the medicine of your people, or one of the medicines being maple syrup and maple sap. And we are really curious to know, what are the traditional medicines, all of them or some of them, or some of the others that are native to the Anishinaabe people, and how are they used? And when someone is ill or needs healing, how is it administered?
Well, I live in what's known as the medicine chest of the Ojibwe. So the pharmacopoeia is very large. There are thousands of medicines in our territory. Sometimes we boil them, sometimes we burn them, sometimes we put them on as a poultice, sometimes we, eat them, sometimes we, drink them as a tea. All different kind of medicines depending on what the medicine is. We pick a lot of our medicines in the spring and summer. And we do pick some of our roots in the fall, before it is too cold out. We know that a lot of those medicines are the medicines that we need for this time. And, so that is a lot, like a medicine like swamp tea, that's called Labrador tea. I don't think you can get that commercially, but in the boreal forest, it exists in great amount. And that's what you use for like a head cold or decongestion, and it's really a magical tea, and so we have that, medicine that we drink, and a lot of us, have the same medicines that other Native people have, cedars, all of those cedar teas are all good for us too, so we work with a lot of those, and also we breathe those.
I wanted to just ask, You know, in relation to ancient stories, traditional stories of the Anishinaabe people, are there any stories that you could tell us that illustrate the relationship between the plants or any traditional medicines and humans, or the earth, the soil? Something that kind of gives us more of a connection to the mythology of the Anishinaabe.
Well, wild rice is our most one of our most sacred foods, and in our prophecies, we were instructed to move from the East Coast. That's where we live, by the Great Salt Water. You know, we are the Wampanoag people, we are the Penobscot people, we are the Piscataway people, we are the Abenaki people. We are all of those nations. Those are our relatives. And we were instructed to go to the place where the food grows upon the water, and that is wild rice. And so we followed a shell which appeared in the sky to the place where the food grows upon the water. And that is how we came to live, you know, 1,000 years ago here in these Great Lakes, in this territory. And that wild rice has provided for us, is the center of our existence. And you know, today we are faced with a significant decline in our rice, and our rice also faces the impact of climate change, which is torrential storms. And so, you know, over the past few years, you see, you know, some of the rice comes in, that's the thing about biodiversity. If you have a lot of biodiversity, you got a better shot of feeding yourself, because there's different ecosystems within which your rice is, and some is shallow lakes, and some is, you know, deeper lakes, some is creeks or rivers. And in that, your rice has little different variations, and that makes it stronger. And the ecosystems are stronger. And so, you know, that's why we are able to continue our traditions, also because of our prayers. And you know, it's been a part of our wild rice economy, has been very big for our people for a long time. We, you know, in our community sells our rice. But more than that, this proposed pipeline project goes through the heartland of our wild rice territories, and it is through all these wetlands and all these lakes. And oil and water do not mix. And so, you know, we're asking you also to keep an eye out. You know, I know you have good thoughts, but Honor the Earth is fighting the biggest tar sands pipeline in the world, and we could use some help. If you want to protect our traditional medicines, you know, you need to stand with us to protect our rice, because that's foundational, you know, to who we are. You know, we have a lot of different, you know, medicines that came to our people at different times and in different ceremonies, and we take care of those medicines for different ways to protect our people. So the wild rice is perhaps our most significant medicine.
Well, I want to come back to that actually, just to understand how we can stand with your nation and your people and help. And I just want to ask one question before that, which is that I've heard you say when speaking that about speaking with your father in particular, that when you shared your views on ecology, he said to you, I don't want to hear your philosophies until you have grown corn. And I was meditating a lot about that. And I was wondering if you can share about the difference between talking about something and doing it. And then also just the process, internal process that, and knowledge that's gained when you actually do the thing, when you actually grow the corn. And this is kind of related to what you're saying. How can we help, not just think about it, but do it? So.
Yeah, so I was an undergraduate at Harvard, and my dad came to see me, and you know, he said, you're a really smart young woman, Winona, but I don't want to hear your philosophy if you can't grow corn. Mm-hmm. And you know, so I became a corn farmer, and I grow mostly varieties. Mandan varieties is what I grew this year. Now, you know, for those of you who know a little bit about agrobiodiversity, America was great when there were 10,000 varieties of corn. That's when America was great. And corn, you know, doesn't exist in nature. It was created, you know, through humans and the plant. It exists in nature as teosinte. And so all of those varieties were created, you know, working with the plants, and the women is largely who created the biodiversity, because we're the ones who do most of the gardening and select most of the seeds. You know, I've been growing corn, and first time I grew it, I thought I failed because it was short. But it turns out it doesn't need to be tall. It just needs to put on an ear. And in areas like our areas, so I grow short growing season varieties that came from basically the Nile River, the Fertile Crescent of the North, which is around the Missouri River, exactly where the Dakota Access Pipeline was placed. that area was the center of northern agrobiodiversity. And so those seed varieties, they are short season. They grow about waist high, or maybe chest high. And you know, I took my kids out there, my grandchildren out there to pick, you know, and my friends, and we picked these varieties, and I showed them the corn, and you know, how some of it had put on an ear and it was like 6 inches from the ground. I said, that one was just busy. He said, I'm getting this on right now. You know, I mean, it was super interesting because, and I pointed out the difference between that and like a GMO variety, because the GMO varieties can't adapt. They don't have any brains in them anymore. Their brains were replaced by genetic genes that were put in by Monsanto, and so they can't adapt. And that's part of what we saw with the, you know, in the time of COVID, and that we're going to keep seeing is that big is not, size does matter, and big is not best, because it's not agile enough to transform to feed people. You know, that's why they dumped all that milk and crushed all those eggs and killed all those animals, is because they didn't fit into the box of the industrial food system. And so these varieties teach you. They teach you, they adapt, they're smart when you grow these heritage varieties. And, you know, so we spend a lot of time looking at them and looking at different practices on how to, you know, whether it's fish guts or whether it's horse manure, we have a lot of that, but I'm interested in post-petroleum agriculture. And basically everybody should be interested in post-petroleum agriculture. You know, you ask me how to help. I mean, one thing you do is you just do it, you know, and it's not just buying it, you know, because that's kind of been the American way is, you know, 70% of our, you know, 70% of our economy is shopping. And like, we're done. Time to make stuff, you know, time to be a little bit more self-sufficient, buy from your local farmer if you can't grow, but quit just going to Thrive or Whole Foods and, you know, buying up your stuff and feeling all smug and beautiful about it, because you got to do a little more than that, you know, and, you know, look for these, you know, fair trade farmers. I mean, you know, certainly, you know, and producers, you can certainly purchase from them. But, you know, more than that, the question is like in each place where people are watching this, there's some place to protect the water. Just do it. You know, just do it. Get out there, be present. You know, democracy is not a spectator sport. And, you know, in Minnesota, you know, we have public lands, you know, 300 miles of public lands that they want to put a pipeline on. And I'm like, we're the public. We're the public. You know, and to me, it's time to like stand up and, you know, and in this case, you know, we're asking people to come to northern Minnesota, bring your best outdoorsy camping. You know, we're looking at these heated vests that they have now, and come stand and be present. You know, it's perfect COVID safe tourism. You know, you can stand masked up out in the cold and show how tough you are to a Canadian multinational corporation. And I invite you to join me if you're tough. You know, come on up. You know, you can look at our Welcome Water Protectors website. We'll tell you exactly where to go. All kinds of great places to visit in the North Country. But, you know, so there's those pieces. And then, but then the next thing is really, what's the just transition? Because that's what I'm mostly interested in. I'm interested in where we're going, you know, because if we continue to let a bunch of these, you know, guys tell us what's up and what's going to happen, we'll be exactly where we are, you know. In this moment where we have a pause, it's time to begin to create the vision of the place that we want, where there's organic agriculture, where there's renewable energy, where there's justice in how people treat each other and justice in the economy. You know, I'm a hemp grower. You know, and what I'm working on is the new green revolution. You know, of course, I want cannabis legalized across the country, but you know, it's not only a new economy that represents the possibility of a just economy, if the people who were disproportionately imprisoned for cannabis could now own the dispensaries, that's what justice would look like, you know? But in addition to that, my interest is in the materials economy, which is hemp as something you do to make clothing. Now, of course, I'm just wearing my little cotton stuff, but this stuff is about 5 times as much water, 24% of the world's agricultural chemicals, cotton. Anything else most people are wearing, that's polyester. That's all fossil fuels. What if we started to wean ourselves and moved into an organic hemp economy? The word canvas comes from cannabis. So I want to build a hemp economy that looks at hempcrete, that looks at fabric, that looks at textiles, that looks at the materials economy. And I want Native people to be at the table. I'm working on creating the Intertribal Hemp Cooperative, putting up solar panels. We're putting up all kinds of solar panels in the north. And so I'm just ready for the new green revolution. I'm ready for the just transition. And I think we need to finance it, and we need to make it. We need to be doulas for the next economy. And at the center of that is reaffirming our relationship to the earth and reaffirming our relationship to each other. You know, and yesterday I can't remember who I was talking to, a despondent white person. Did you hear me say that? A despondent white person. You know, and the reason I'm telling you that is this person was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you know what I said? I said, first of all, just do something, for crying out loud. The other thing I said is, look, you know, I said, it's a really interesting moment. And I heard it said by the great John Trudell, one of the best, you know, most amazing philosophers in our history. And Trudell passed away a few years ago. He was a big proponent of hemp. But Trudell used to say, the difference between a white person and an Indian person is that a white person doesn't feel oppressed, but feels powerless. An Indian person feels oppressed and doesn't feel powerless. Interesting thought. You know, not feeling oppressed, but feeling powerless. And then we understand that we are oppressed, but we do not feel powerless. So take your power back. Take your power back. You know, I'm talking to some beautiful women, and you and I know that the largest transfer of wealth in the American history since the stealing of our stuff is about to happen with the transfer of a huge amount of wealth to your generation and to women. Finance the next economy. Make something beautiful. Take leadership. Time to check those guys to the bench because they have no leadership abilities. You know, the women need to be the next economy. Women need to be birthing this next economy, and it's a healing economy. And I'm happy to be here for it. I'm ready. I'm rolling up my sleeves.
Thank you so much for sharing. In relation to all that, I've heard you speak about the 7th fire and the lighting of the 8th fire. Could you speak a little bit about that and what that prophecy is and where that comes from?
Yeah. In our Anishinaabe teachings, there's these times they're called the times of different fires. And a long time ago, prophets came to us and they said, these things are going to happen. And they talked about how, you know, we would botch some things up, and we did. You know, I say that no society has a monopoly on botching stuff up. We're human. That's what we do. We botch stuff up. The question is do you have the humility to fix it? Right? Say you're sorry, figure out how to fix it. You know, that's something that has to be relearned, right? For all of us. And then we talked about how some people would come and some would be good and some would be bad, and that's true. You know, some of the people that came here were absolute scoundrels, and some of them were just fine people. They talked about how our people would disappear. We didn't have a word for smallpox, but that's what they were talking about. You know, 95% of our people disappeared. The American Holocaust. That's what that is. And then they talked about how our things would disappear. And nobody had a word for anthropologist, but I guess that's what it's called when they haul off all your stuff to a museum in Paris or maybe in DC, including all your bodies. So we didn't have like a framework for any of this. And then they talk about this time of the 6th fire when they said that our people would start to awaken and we would go back and find things that we had left and bring them back to life. We would breathe new life into our songs, into our drums, and into our ceremonies. And we would be awake. Those are called Ashki and Anishinaabe, the new people. And then they said in the time of the 7th fire, we would have a choice between 2 paths. One path, they said, would be well-worn but scorched. Well-worn but scorched. The other path, they said, would not be well-worn, and it would be green. And it would be our choice upon which path to embark. And that's this moment. And then they said, if we embark on the path of the green path, we will make this new world and light this 8th fire. And there's a lot of prophecies of Indigenous people. The Hopis have similar prophecies. And if you look at their, you know, drawings, they have a split in the ways. And some people go up into space with whatever his name is, Richard Branson, and they don't come back. You know, I'm just saying, there you go. You go in that technology way and some do not. Get with your mother. Get with your mother. Don't pick a fight with her. Make amends. You know, that's the answers. Restorative justice with earth, restorative justice with people. You know, that's this opportunity of this time, and people need to make it. you know, whether it is in economy, whether it is in, you know, supporting these water protector struggles that are worldwide. You know, and maybe you can't be there. Maybe you send us $10 a month, you know, or send me $10 a month for Winona's hemp because we need to build the green revolution. You know, that's all good too. You know, invest in the next economy, invest in us because we're here. And then, you know, what is this? And then some places, you know, with the land back movement, join us for the land back movement. I mean, you know, up in Northern California, the city of Eureka returned some land to the Wiyot people. You know, Burt's Bees returned 750 acres to the Penobscots so they could consolidate their land holdings. You know, that was just awesome. But then, you know, for a lot of us, the federal, state, and county lands are held on our reservations by those governments. You know, there's a lot of land that should be returned, and the Boy Scouts, oh my God, those guys are bellying up. A lot of Boy Scout camps on our land. I was like, time to turn those over, buddy. You know, so what I'm saying is that there's an opportunity and a transition and a social movement is moving, and so let's just move. You know, and that's how justice is. You know, we can do land acknowledgements in every city, but you know, let's compare that with land back. Let's pair that with land justice. You know, I mean, and I know some people were afraid of that, but you know, it is time to reconcile, and reconciliation means more than, you know, just listening to us. Reconciliation means action. And you know, the truth is that we all know that we're in this together, you know, and protecting the biodiversity that remains in the world is with Indigenous people. We're 4% of the world's population and 75% of the world's biodiversity. So if you want to protect the medicines, protect the Indigenous people and support us. You know, that's really the ultimate answer, you know, in that.
Thank you so much, Winona, for spending this morning with us, for your walk, for inspired action, not just talking about it. We're really grateful to have a good way forward.
Miigwech, thank you for having me, and really the best, you know, really the best you. Let's all walk through that portal together and make it beautiful.